Hi everyone. Sorry I haven't been around, and I know it's been a while since Trump's inauguration and everything that was going on with that. And it's pretty basic stuff, so I didn't want to really do a video on that. I'm more um, interested in the esoteric and the religious and the banking system, how what everything's going on with Canada and United States. So my last video, I did talk about how I believed, the whole 51st state was real, and obviously it is at this point. If you haven't been watching the news, it definitely is real. And I also discovered there's a connection between the number 51 and the number 33 mathematically to do with hexagon numbers. And we know that the number 51, like in my last video, is a pentagon number. So the pentagon and the hexagon tie into our bodies through our DNA. And I want to get all into that, but this isn't going to be a super long video because I'm trying to make them shorter, so they're a little bit more digestible. But I'm really excited because the whole AI summit that was in Paris, of course, everything's tied to France, and I'll explain why to more detail in this video, and what Vance said and how he talked about Lafayette's sword and the importance of that. Now, if you guys have purchased my book, $10. It's a Google Docs document, about 400 pages, all to do with ley lines, the history regarding the founding of the United States and how it all ties into France and Quebec. And I talked about Lafayette a lot. And he's a really key point. So I was so excited that Vance brought that up, and we'll get into all that. So now the banking system, it seems like Trump wants to get the US banks up into Canada. And that's super important. He's also talking about bringing down the interest rates on the visas down to 10%, which would basically hurt the central banks a lot. And I do believe that he's trying to take down the central banks. Okay, that's what's really going on, and the new gold standard going into crypto. That's what I believe. That's what he's kind of been showing us, and I think it's really important to kind of understand that, to not get into fear when these systems start collapsing. So this first part I wanted to mention because he's putting all the criminals at Gitmo. Now, I didn't know, I don't know if you guys knew that, when Trump does his rallies, he was always playing the song YMCA. Now, that is a reference to Gitmo because the Gitmo was a YMCA center called Camp Meyer. And if you understand the YMCA, what that means, it actually means Young Men Christian Association, which I didn't know that. I thought, I didn't realize it was to do with Christianity, the YMCA. So lots of clues, right? They're always giving us clues, and you have to kind of do your homework to figure out what's going on. So this is what Vance, when he spoke, you should really go listen to his speech or just read it. There's a printed out document where I got this from. This is something that he talked about, the 4 points that he wants to make for AI. He definitely doesn't want it to be censored. He wants it to all to be freedom of speech, and he wants it to create more jobs for humans. He doesn't want to make less jobs for humans. So this is why I'm in a good mood, because I was really nervous about AI when it was with the deep state, because I really think that they were going to do a universal income, kind of get people not working, poison us basically, and then, really put us in a prison being attached to this universal income, which I still think Canada is trying to do. They want everybody on a universal income. It's basically socialism, right? So he did say in his speech here that American AI technology continues to be the gold standard worldwide. Now, the word gold standard, we all know ties to the banking system. So this is why I believe that crypto is going to, and they've done a lot of things with the executive orders since he's been in power, um, that the central banks cannot get into crypto, right? He's already created that executive order. So really, there's creating a new type of decentralized crypto that will probably take over, and also will be, in a way, stop crime, right? Because everything will be tracked. But I don't care about the tracking and the whole AI thing as long as it's not nefarious, right? It's actually going to be probably beneficial. There'll be med beds. There won't be any crime anymore. There won't be any laundering of funds through slush funds and through criminal cartels and drug trafficking. It'll be very hard to do the crime. And if it's with good intentions, it'll be great. If it's under bad intentions and they still allow the crime to happen, and then, obviously that's not good. So I'm in a good mood these days, and I hope you guys are too. So this is Vance speaking, and he talks about Macron, and the sword of Marquis de Lafayette. Now, if you don't know who he was a young man that came over to help fight. He was a French um, citizen that came over to help fight in the Patriot movement because they were so frustrated in France about Britain always, like, trying to take over France and controlling everything. So he wanted to help create a new country that was free from Britain's control. And he was very good friends with Marie Antoinette and the King of France. And then all that debacle that happened with the French Revolution was really, I think, a psyop to get the French people to turn on their monarchy so they could be punished for funding the Patriot movement, because the Marquis de Lafayette helped with a lot of the getting the funding going from France to the US Patriots. Okay, so this is why Quebec really needs to get freed from Canada. It should never be under British control, and there was many times where Quebec tried to annex with the United States, and I'll get into that as well. So he spoke about Macron, and here he's speaking about Lafayette. So he said he was kind enough to show me the sword that belonged to the America's dearest international friend from our own revolution, of course, the Marquis de Lafayette. He let me hold the sword, but of course made me put on white gloves beforehand. Now, I had never known that there was a sword of Lafayette. Okay, so I did a little digging on this, and guess what? There was Trump doing the sword thing too at his inauguration, but guess what? That sword, the museum that Vance went to, was a Freemason museum. Okay, and that sword is in there in Paris, and they talk about the Freemasonry collecting these items as far back as 1720, around the time that Freemasonry was established in France. Now, Macron, I know, is a Freemason. I've seen him on videos going in and out of Freemason lodges where people were saying it's all satanic and everything, but I don't believe it's satanic. I believe this is, you know, the Templars. Okay, the Freemasonry is really the Templars, the Crusades, and that was all tied to the French. Now, this is his sword. I actually got goosebumps when I saw it, okay, because it has all the Freemason compass and level, the square, and this has a pyramid on it, and I want to show you the sheath here too. Um, this is how they store it at the museum, and you see the triangle. This is all the all-seeing eye that's on the U.S. dollar bill. There's an all-seeing eye here. We have the skull and bones, okay? And you can see the compass and the square here all over the place. So, wow. And even if you go Google to find this sword, you have to put in the Freemason Museum for it to pull up. It doesn't pull up if you just go Lafayette sword. So I was just blown away by this. I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? This is nuts. Okay, so it's just confirmation that we're on the right path. We're starting to see what's happening, and I really get it. Okay, so now the significance of the number 33 and the degree of the Freemasonry. And I'll tell you how it ties into number 51. It's really to do with the highest honor in the Freemasonry, but it's tied to Jacob and his 33 children and his wife, and the 33rd time his name is mentioned in scripture. He has a vision of the infamous ladder. So the Jacob's ladder, which is really your kundalini energy coming up your spine. That's why we have 33 vertebrae, right? It's that energy that's coming up. And if you that awakens and opens your pineal gland. Okay, so hopefully now with RFK Jr. Put in placement as the health minister, he will start getting people's pineal glands opened up, right? Because he's going to start getting the fluoride out of the water. So this will definitely help. So the second coming of Christ merely relates to the awakening consciousness in the 33rd degree. The Bible's reference to 3.5 is the number of turns it takes for the Kundalini energy to travel from the root chakra up to the Shushmuna to the crown chakra. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. And it's also associated with the coiled snake and the caduceus, associated with the Greek god Hermes. So the hermaphrodite, Hermes and Aphrodite, which is basically Mercury is Hermes and Aphrodite is Venus, right? And they travel with the sun all the time, those two planets. Hermes is the only god that can travel between the higher and lower realms. So after ruling Judah for 7 years, King David has said to have ruled over Israel for 33 years. And this is very important because the Star of David is the hexagon, okay? And that ties to the hexagon 33 number. Israel gets its name from Isis, the female principle Ra, lower consciousness of El. Okay, so Israel, higher consciousness. Here we have the three aspects of consciousness, higher and lower thoughts, which subsequently trigger emotions. King David is associated with defeating demons, the battle mankind has to face in order to climb Jacob's ladder and transcend into higher realms of consciousness. So it is by having the right thought, this is really important, the right emotion and the right action that we transcend consciousness. So it's really about being positive, right? In doing so, we will also overcome our demons. The imaginary within, the Star of David symbolically explains the importance of balancing thought and emotion. And I know you can manifest with thought and emotion. If you have like a real strong belief and you put a lot of emotion behind it, you can actually bust timelines. I've done it. I totally switched timelines from that. Okay, so just understand your emotions have a lot of power. It's emotion. It moves things, right? So you can track whether you are raising your conscious awareness. The positive aspects of the 33 cultivate a determination to seek an understanding of wisdom and to teach others how they can also rise conscious awareness. And it is important that you share and teach. You don't force, you just drop little breadcrumbs to people that can handle it. And if they can't, you just let it be. Okay, you don't get upset about it. So this is where I'm sitting there going, number 51, the 51st state. I know it has to do with the pentagon, and I know DNA has a pentagon and a hexagon in it. And I wonder if there's a link between 33 and 51. So I just Google it, and there it was. Okay, so it's called a decimal hexagon. Is the 51 is related to 33. Octagon, it's 63, but look at this, 1111. So if you guys see 1111 a lot, it's a binary code of 33 and 51. Okay, so that's just mind-boggling for me. I couldn't even believe that I actually thought it and it was there. That's how crazy this stuff's getting. And then I knew it was tied to DNA. So then I go, oh, I wonder if there's DNA linked to the number 51. So there was a photo taken called Photo 51. It's an X-ray that was done, and it discovered the double helix DNA, and it's an X. So that's why everything's called X now, because it's the double helix DNA. Okay, it's your proper DNA that's not modified. And they had a cartoon about it here showing how it exposed it. I guess when you look down the DNA, you can see the X or whatever, the double helix. But anyhow, it's just mind-boggling. So that's why we need a 51st state. Now, the number 45 and 47 ties to 9, 11. Okay, so this equals to 9, this equals to 11. it's 9 is your spiritual enlightenment, and I think we're in 11 realms. Okay, like that's what I understand. There's 11 degrees of reality. There's probably, like they say, you know, like realities that are similar to this one, and you can jump in and out depending on where your consciousness is. So it's really important to understand you have to stay in high frequency and not get stressed about everything that's going on. It's actually super exciting. So I'm just like flying high these days. So they had the Panthers gave him, you know, the shirt with 45, 47 on, and it's very symbolic because of the 9/11 number code there. It's actually turning into a positive thing instead of negative. You know, the nine, when you have emergency number, they make you call 9/11. They want you to be in fear of the number 9/11. And it's actually the epitome of highest consciousness in the realms. Okay, so just understand that. Now, I knew when Trump became the 47th president, um, I realized it had to do with the problem of Euclid because I'd studied this. Okay, and this is known as a chair. Okay, they call it a chair, and it's basically how they get the perfect triangle is all through this. It's all through the Greek geometer, Pythagoras, who worked on it for many years to devise a method of finding the length of the hypotenuse of the right angle triangle. Okay, so it's very important, the triangle, because obviously a triangle is like a pyramid. Now they have it here and they explain how it's the bride's chair. So being the bride's chair, the constellation Virgo looks like a chair. It's hard to find literature on that, but I have done videos on it before, so I must have found it before that it's a chair. Virgo is a chair, right? It's the bride's chair. It's Virgo is the virgin, right? She's the maiden. She's also Persephone. You know, she's the woman in the sky. But everything's about geometry, okay? Euclid, okay? So the geometry is the symbol in the Freemasonry, right? So here where they used the angle, the square, they had the bride's chair, the Pythagorean, well, 47th Euclid problem inside of that. They don't use that anymore. Now they just hang a G there because it represents geometry and God, okay, the Masonic G. Okay, so there's lots of theories what it represents, but I really do believe it represents geometry because the universe is is created by a master architect. Okay, that's what that's all about. Okay, in the letter G in the Hebrew is written as Gimel, okay, and has the numeric value of 3. So on the Kabbalah, it is the third path. It actually relates to the high priestess. Okay, so, and yeah, here they're saying the supreme architect of the universe. Now it's tied to King Solomon's temple, and that also ties to the high priestess. I will get into that. The ritual of Freemasonry referred to King Solomon and the building of his temple. The Masonic buildings where lodges and their members meet are sometimes called temples. Okay, it's an allegory for King Solomon's temple. And the Boaz and Jachin pillars are the entrance of the temple, represent the active and passive elements of the world of Atzulus. Okay, so it gets, and it's all tied to the tree of life, and yeah. So basically, it's the priestess card because we have the Boaz and the Jachin temples. This is the temples of Solomon's temple. We have the pomegranates, which ties to Persephone and Jesus. We have this is the horns of Isis or the gate of Isis, which is in Taurus. And the moon, it's actually the crescent moon you see at her feet. That's also in the Bible for the Virgin Mary, has the crescent moon at her feet. So there's life and rebirth, the pillars of Solomon Temple, balance of duality, the maiden, mother, and crone. They're saying this is similar to the moon. I have this in my logo for time will tell astrology. It's the triple moon goddess, right? Like with Hecate, it's it's the crescent moon, the waxing moon, and the full moon. Okay, so but they also saying it's the gate of Isis, which I know is the horns of Taurus. Okay, so who knows which one it is? Maybe it's both. Um, it's to do with intuition, vast subconscious, the divine law, strength, and he shall establish with the temple pillars. Okay, so they're saying here, yeah, in the Kabbalah letter, it means camel, and the planet is the moon. It is a secret. Okay, so that's the everything that's secrets. This is the reverse, like the hidden part or the negative part, disconnected from intuition, withdrawal, silence, repression, hidden agendas, blocked psychic powers, lack of trust. And then the upright, intuition, sacred knowledge, feminine energy, the subconscious mind, secrets, and wisdom. It's basically all the esoteric knowledge. But what's crazy is this actually represents the Pope. Okay, the female pope. There was a female pope. She ruled from, I think it was 1855 to 1857. And this is the path on the Kabbalah. Okay, it goes up um, to the Kether from the Sephiroth of the middle Sephiroth there with the sun. Okay, and this path of the high priestess has the Diat doorway. See how it's behind? These Sephiroths are in front. This one is behind. That's the way out of here. So she rules the keeper to the door. That's the temple, right? And that's ruled by Pluto. A lot of people say Pluto's up here, but no, Pluto is the hidden planet. Okay, and he's their soul, and that's the doorway out, is when your soul is in this higher consciousness. Now this church is called the Notre Dame de Bon Secours Church. It's the first church built in Montreal, and has the Virgin Mary and Jesus up there. And inside, I couldn't believe it when I went in there. There's the Virgin Mary with the moon at her feet. So basically this represents the high priestess. Okay, so the Virgin Mary is the high priestess, but she's also represented in the story of her being the Pope. Okay, Pope Joan or Jonas Angulus, which Jonas means that's the name they use for John the Baptist. Okay, it's like means John, but here they have her as Joan, John. But 855 to 857, the legend about a woman who purportedly reigned as Pope for 2 years during the Middle Ages. Her story first appeared in the Chronicles in the 13th century and subsequently spread throughout Europe. The story was widely believed for centuries, but most modern scholars regard it as fiction. So it never really happened. But anyhow, this is the High Priestess card. Okay. Um, they're saying, yeah, it's just all fictional. Okay, so, but she's depicted as Pope John the Seventh. Okay, so she is a John, but even though she was Jones, they just changed the spelling. There you go. That's my priestess card. I didn't know that before. So now this is funny because the letter G has the four letters of YHWH is Yahweh for Jehovah. Okay, and the geometry is known as the fifth science, which I find cool because that's the pent, right? Now, in the Euclid elements, he creates the hex. Okay, so Euclid also has this hex geometry going on here. And I just wanted to get into that because of the Star of David is a six-sided star, which is a hex, right? So knowing about the flow of energy is not enough to understand how you can channel energy efficiently. But again, we find clues in the symbolic meaning of the number 33, this time in relation to King David. The Bible tells us that King David rules the Jews for 40 years. However, you must pay particular attention to the number of years during his reign, as they are significant. It is by having the right thought, emotion. Yeah, I've already put this in here, right? Yeah, that you need this to transcend. So it's the Star of David is the transcending. So he basically ruled for 33 years, the King David. Okay. Now, I couldn't believe this because my friend, who's French, I'm talking about the hex, and he says, well, you know, France is called the hexagon. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. And yeah, so because of the shape of it, they say it's like a hexagon. So they call it a hex. And this is the DNA where you have a pent and a hex. So this is why Trump needs the 51st state, okay? Because the 51st number is the pent and the 33 number is the hex. Okay, to basically it's a Freemason ritual. Okay, and it has to do with our DNA. Excuse me. Now, what's crazy is there's a bank in Quebec. It's called Desjardins, but it's not a central bank. So if the central banks collapse, the Desjardins Bank won't collapse. It's a co-opted bank. Excuse me. And they use the symbol of the hex. And that's super important, right? Because it's all tied to this. So they use this as a conceptual tool that is a metaphor that conveys a sense of balance and equality. And this is their logo. So this logo didn't always look like this. It actually was created in 1976, I think. Um, and it looks like a bee. Okay. So eventually, like that logo that we just saw back there, that's a bee. That's supposed to be a bee, and this is the honeycomb of the bee, and it's in the hex, right? Now a hex is a cube, right? If you look at a hex, a six-sided figure, it's actually a cube. So it's tied, I believe, to AI, right? Because the cube, the cyborg, whatever, it's but like again, I said the AI is coming no matter what. The smart cities are coming no matter what. They know something's going on with the magnetic poles. I saw an article in the news about it. Um, and I do think it could be really nefarious, but it could be really good, depending on who's in charge of it. And personally, I'd rather US, who has the Constitution for the freedom of speech and, you know, the right to bear arms, take down a bad government. I would prefer them to be in charge of the AI than um, Canada and the UN. So and you can see here they said understanding the geometric nickname of France called the hexagon, and you can see it looks like the honeycomb, right? And they have the flower and the bee. It's so basically the bee represents AI. Okay, it's the whole hive mind, but it doesn't have to be scary. Okay, it can be okay. You choose to live in a smart city, that's fine. That's what you want. No crime. You know, everything's recorded. Nobody's telling you what to say and what you can't say. Everything is, you know, normal. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I mean, some people will choose to live out in the country and be free, and I'm sure um, the farmers are going to get a better deal with Trump. He's already talked about how bad a deal they've had and how badly they've been treated. So I really don't think that he's going to hurt the farming industry. They're going to create jobs with AI instead of AI just destroying humans, right? So this is really like a pivotal point in history right now. Okay, so if you understand New France, the conquest when Britain took over New France, you can see here, this is Quebec, this is all the way down in the United States. This was all New France, okay? So even USA was part of France, okay? So this really has to come full circle, okay? Now, Montreal is named, I believe, after a Crusader castle in Jordan. And they have it related to the Crusaders who wrote their chronicles in the Middle Latin, Old French, and Occitan mentions the castle as Castrum Saboac or Scrobac or as Mont Regalis, Montreal, or Montreal. So Montreal, it's right there. The second set of variants translate to the royal castle or the king's castle. It ties to, you know, the Zion, Mount Zion. Okay, so I do believe that Montreal is the key pin to the Virgin Mary because of that church in the old port there, the Notre Dame Bon Secours Church. I went in there. It's full of temple crosses. They don't want to call them that. They have the Black Madonna in there, the wooden sculpture that the Notre Dame Society, who created Montreal, worshiped. They all had visions to that Black Madonna. It's like a wooden Madonna that the Druids actually worshipped in Paris, in France, you know, so it's all full circle. Okay, so they're saying here the annexation of Canada. So in the early years of the United States, many American political figures were in favor of invading and annexing Canada, and even pre-approved the admission of province of Quebec. Okay, previously known as Lower Canada. Quebec was supposed to be part of the United States. Okay, it went bad in the War of 1812. Yeah, so yeah, that's what happened. So so then there was this patriot movement that happened in 1839 on February 15th, which is tomorrow. They killed, I think it was 15 patriots in Montreal. They hanged them for trying to rebel against the British rule. It started in Beauharnois. And yeah, so basically 10 years later, there was another annexation manifesto created to try to get Montreal out of Canada and into the United States again. So this has happened many times. So it's going to happen. Like whether it's just Quebec is the 51st state and Canada just suffers. Now, there's a big kind of war developing on now right between Alberta and Quebec because Quebec has all the aluminum and they're like, oh, well, I can't sell it to the United States. No big deal. I'll just sell it to Europe. And we'll still be fine. You know, we'll still have an industry because we sell like 70% of our aluminum to the United States. And then Alberta is mad because they blocked like Quebec blocked the pipeline to come through Canada to get to the ports to sell the oil and gas to Europe. So from Alberta. So Alberta is like really upset at Quebec. And so they created their pipeline to go down into United States and then back up into Ontario. And so, you know, now there's going to be tariffs on that. So they're mad because they can't get wealthy because Quebec's blocking them. So all these Albertans are saying like, I'm reading comments in some of the videos and they're like saying like, just get rid of Quebec, like just get rid of Quebec. How dare they block our ability to make money now, you know, because there's all this arguing going on within the provinces because the provinces weren't working together up here. They had all these laws, you know, but how they, you know, bad trading and basically we don't produce hardly anything here like you know and our population is the same as California, you know, it's like to think that we're going to be able to take on the US tariffs is a joke. It's just going to collapse the economy, but Quebec will be fine, and probably the rest of Canada will want to get rid of Quebec, so Quebec will probably become the first state, I'm assuming. It makes sense to me. Okay, so I it's all to do with the Scottish rights, right? You know that Trump, you know, the Lewis McLeod clan, you know, he's related to all that. So I do believe this is a Scottish rites, you know, degree of masonry going on here. And they talk about the Council of the Princes of Jerusalem, you know, in the chapter of the Red Cross. It's all about Jerusalem, Freemasonry. Okay. It's that's what it is. It's the Crusaders. So there's this book that has mentioned this before, The Templars' Legacy in Montreal and the New Jerusalem. Montreal is the New Jerusalem, and these crosses are all over that church, the Bon Secours Church. Okay, so I'm just convinced that you know, we're really on a pivotal moment here. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys how this is really a kind of Freemason coded reality going on here right now, and how the number 51, the Pentagon, ties to the 33 degree of Freemasonry. And then they talked about the Lafayette sword. I'm just like blown away. I'm like, this is all, you know, this is all stuff that I have in my book. So it's just full circle for me, and I'm super excited. I'm super stoked. I'm going to do another video on Pi Day, which is coming up in March. That's super important date. And we also have another Venus star point happening in March. So I'm going to do a video on that. And I do think it's an important blood moon. I don't think it's the blood moon. I think we're just into the story right now. It's just, I think it's all about creating this new world that's all about freedom and prosperity. Okay, but it has to, the old world has to collapse, and the old banking system that has been robbing people, it's usury, really, right? It's just, it's a crime, all these interest rates and everything. I just think that that whole system has to collapse. And I don't think they're going to go down easily. But with Ukraine not being funded by the United States anymore, and then Canada not being funded by the United States anymore, I think everything is going to start to turn. And, Trump mentioned, I'm not protecting Canada anymore, militarily, so it's a different world. And, there's lots of China and Russian ships going on up at the Northwest Passage. So, maybe Russia will come in and invade Canada, and then finally we'll have to have the US come and save us. Who the heck knows? All I know is it's going to get really exciting. So I hope you guys are doing well, and please like and subscribe, and please share my videos. I know a lot of people are probably don't want to share my stuff, but it helps people, Even if people just watch it a little bit, it get people out of fear. Because if we can create an energy that's not based on fear, I do think the outcome of our reality will be better. Okay, so the more you know, the less fear you have. So take care. Wish you all the best. Take care. Bye.